But it will be more disastrous to leave the energy sector the way it is, for us to be confronted or to be plunged into darkness, than for all of us to contribute to resolving it. And for me, I support the levy also because President Mahama has given us the assurance that this levy will be ring-fenced strictly to resolve the legacy debts and also to ensure stability in the energy sector. Okay. Now, what we inherited in the past, or what we saw in the past, is the fact that the previous government, despite collecting 45 billion Ghana cedis in ESLA, diverted ESLA funds, revenue from ESLA, to finance other projects. And at the time they were leaving office, instead of ESLA revenue solving the challenges in the energy sector, they left behind an energy sector that was on its knee, life support because of debt. Prior to 2024 elections, we saw the number of times that the IPPs, the independent power producers, came out and issued stern warnings that they were going to cut or plunge the country into darkness because of the debts that were owed them. We inherited a challenge. Our approach to the challenge is that we need to solve this problem once and for all.
Very well.
And we have decided not to play politics with it.
1 cedi per liter, levy will seek to solve that.
Yes, because the challenge we are confronted with in the energy sector is fundamentally a financial issue. So you need to raise money. Now, with this levy, we are projecting to raise 5.7 billion annually. That will even still not be enough. Yes. But we have other things that government is introducing in order to solve the problem. And one is the phase 2 of the gas processing plant. Okay. When that comes, it means that our payments or expenses on fuel for our thermal plants will reduce significantly. So government is not only approaching this issue by placing a burden on the Ghanaian people to pay an extra levy, but we are looking at how we can confront the issue from all sectors and across to ensure that we find a solution that is lasting enough. Great. Our appeal, in conclusion, our appeal to the good people of Ghana is that we understand the challenges, and we understand that you are now trying to navigate your way out of the prolonged economic hardship that you were confronted with under the 8 years of the NPP. But we have to make this necessary sacrifice in order to save this country's energy sector, because the energy sector is the bedrock for production, manufacturing, and all other sectors are linked to the success of the energy sector. We plead with them.
If it's to be successful,
it must be an energy sector. Even the agri sector needs the energy sector to be stable. And so all other sectors are interconnected with the energy sector. That is why government has decided to take this very difficult but important step to resolve the challenges.
Great. So that's a justification for it. Honorable Collins Aduma-Kumensa, you have been in the energy sector. You know the problems there very well. Given the debt situation, 3.1 billion and 1.2 billion for fuel, introducing this, and that debt must be paid somewhat. I don't know how we're going to pay, but somewhat that debt has to be paid. Otherwise, we're going to be plunged back into doom, so which nobody wants. This 1 cedi per liter imposition by government, technical people have said it's good. Of course, the ordinary people say it's not the best. Your side is planning a demonstration sometime later in the week to protest this. Given that a lot of the debt was what you handed over to the new administration, which is barely 6 months old, shouldn't you rather be keeping quiet or supporting the clearing of the debt and how moving forward we can make progress, rather than staging a demonstration to do what really? I mean, that's just the question. Why are we opposing this?
Well, Salom, good morning. And, this is my first time on your show.
Yes, I'm happy you are here.
Yes, my first time.
We spoke the very first time on Eyewitness News.
Absolutely.
And you said quite a few things.
Yes. And good morning to my brother, Edem Agbana, and the other panelists who will be joining us via Zoom. You know, Salom, I know Edem Agbana very well. And if anybody had told me that a time will come when Edem will be justifying an increment of taxes, I would have said, oh, no, that cannot be. I mean, today, my brother is justifying taxes, additional burden on the Ghanaian people. And that's quite interesting. You know, I've been listening to quite a number of government communicators. And in all honesty, Salom, I think they should tone down on their attempt to justify. They just have to tone down a little bit. You see, one of the things that we politicians must guard against is the trust of the people, is to lose the trust of the people. We must be very careful what we say during campaigns and what we promise and what we actually deliver. And this goes across both political parties. We are a victim as a political party, myself from MPP. And if we are not careful, it gets to a stage, what politicians say at one point in time may not be taken serious. And that is my worry. One of the most important documents that comes to Parliament is the budget. And anybody who has the budget should go with me to paragraph 263. And with your permission, I would like to read.
Sure.
Mr. Speaker, government assumed the liability and debt service obligation of ESLA PLC following the bond closure program and subsequent liquidation of ESLA PLC as a result of the domestic debt exchange program, DDEP. And there's the catch, 264. Consequently, without increasing the levy, and this is the catch, without increasing the levy, we will also review the Energy Sector Levies Act, ESLA, to consolidate the Energy Debt Recovery Levy, Energy Sector Recovery Levy, that's the Delta Fund, and Sanitation and Pollution Levy into one levy and use the proceeds to cater for the energy sector shortfall and service the inherited debt service obligation. This was the budget. This was read in March. That they do not intend to increase the levy. Indeed, the first bill that came to Parliament, you know, bills when they come with a memorandum and have a copy of the memorandum. This was the initial bill. And the object of the bill is to consolidate the energy sector levies, provide prudent and efficient utilization of the proceeds generated from the levies, and facilitate long-term investment in the energy sector. Let me go to paragraph 3, the most important part, which is consistent with what was mentioned in the budget. Consequently, the Energy Sector Levies Act 2015, Act 899, does not make provision for the use of the proceeds of the levies to service the debt taken over by government. For this reason, government has decided to restructure and consolidate the Energy Debt Recovery Levy, the Energy Sector Recovery Levy, the Price Stabilization and Recovery Levy, and Sanitation and Pollution Levy into a single levy to be known as the Energy Sector Shortfall and Debt Repayment Levy. And there's the catch. This consolidation will, however, not increase the amount charged on each of the petroleum products.
This is a memorandum.
This is the memorandum to the earlier bill that was brought to Parliament in March. This justification about we left a debt, they knew about this debt before they brought this memorandum.
But this memorandum doesn't hold anymore, right?
No, this I'll give you the new memorandum. Okay. I'm just trying to tell you about the trust issue. When you come to Parliament, you present a budget and tell us that you are not going to increase the levy. And then, true to what you said in Parliament, or in your budget, you come with a new Energy Sector Levy Act. And the memorandum is, it tallies that you don't intend to increase. This is March. Then in June, you come with an amendment and you're going to increase the levy.
Maybe they've seen that the other things they wanted to do to deal with the problem maybe will not work, or maybe the fact that the IPPs and all of that in recent times have been roaring.
The point I'm making is that they knew of this, all the things you are talking about. They knew about it. Who doesn't know about the energy sector debt?
So why do you think that they now want to increase it?
I'm coming. That is the inconsistency that I'm drawing your attention to. It is the inconsistency that I'm drawing your attention to. And I'm saying that we politicians must get to a certain stage where we have to be truthful to the words we tell our people proud to come into power. This was what they told us. So this sudden justification about now we want to pay the debts is quite interesting. Now I listened to Mr. John Jinapo, my very good friend. We have to answer a very fundamental question. What is going to be the usage of this proceeds of this money?
So they used to buy fuel and to...
No, listen to Mr. John Jinapo. He says the process of this is not going to be used to pay the energy sector debt, legacy debt. And that is going to be used to procure fuel. Completely at variance with what my brother said. That's what you said. You said it's going to be used to pay legacy debt, and that you inherited debt. And that the process are going to be used to pay the energy sector debt. That's what you said. But your minister on Wednesday, after they had passed this bill at midnight, in the morning on Wednesday, was on City FM, was on Joy, saying that, oh no, the process are not going to be used to pay legacy debt. In fact, it's just going to be used to procure fuel. What is the real intent of this particular levy? Let's just be fair to ourselves. Salom, one CD
so let me even help your point. There's an FAQ document, 1 CD per litre levy. Question 2 says, what is the purpose of the Energy Sector Levies Amendment Act 2025? So the amendment of the levy of the Energy Sector Shortfall and Debt Prepayment Levy is to raise additional revenue to serve as a dedicated fund for the power sector, particularly to purchase liquid fuels for the use of thermal power generation plants. So that's
so it's not going to be used to pay legacy debt.
So that's what you're saying.
That's the point I'm making, and that's what the minister said. That the usage of this levy, the process, is just going to be used to buy fuel, and not to pay any legacy debt, as my brother is talking about. That's not from me. Now the issue about the president saying there's going
but if they make enough and there is excess, you can pay the debt with it.
You need 1.1,
1.2 actually.
1.2 to pay
to
buy fuel.
Yes.
This is a
and
bill.
you are raising 5.7.
You see, and this is a bill. You have to be consistent.
Sorry, the 5.7 is cedis. So this will be 12.6 billion cedis.
So the point I made was that if that even the 5.7 is still not even enough.
Yeah, to buy fuel.
So I'm saying that nobody should be justifying that we are bringing this.
The point is making is that let's focus on purchasing fuel.
Purchasing fuel. If that is the usage of it, tell us.
Because even for the fuel, we need 12.6.
Absolutely.
But we are raising 5.7.
So this additional burden is not intended
to retard the debt.
Absolutely. From their own narrations. That's the point I'm making. This is from the minister. And the point he made that the president says this is going to go into a dedicated fund. Even the first bill that came, we were told that this money is going to go to a dedicated fund. It's not going to go to a consolidated fund.
So
there's nothing new about it.
So that's consistent.
That's consistent. There's nothing new about it.
That's consistent with what they have been saying.
No, what I'm saying is that what the president said, it's just been consistent with the earlier bill that came to Parliament.
But the earlier bill, what happened to it?
It's been passed.
It's been passed, okay.
It's been passed. We passed it. And it's here. I have the bill here. If you go into the...
That's what consolidates all the... Consolidates. Levies.
That is it. And here. It's here. Collecting agencies, the Ghana Revenue. Payment into energy sector support account. It's not going to the consolidated fund. So I'm saying the point that the president made, that we want to assure Ghanaians that this particular money is not going to be commingled with the consolidated fund, is already known. It's consistent with the earlier bill that was approved.
But yes, so that's the intention. So
that was approved.
So we have to know. So he's saying it is not
it's already known to us. It's nothing new.
But we didn't know.
He was trying to assure us that, everybody, this is a public document.
I know, but
he was trying to assure the Ghanaian people that, as for this money, don't worry. It's not going to be used for any other thing, but it's going to be used to take care of your energy matters. I'm saying we already know that. And now we are being told that the process coming in is not going to be used for legacy debt. So my brother should stop the explanation about we left this amount of money, debt. This money is not going to be used for that. If they want to retire that debt, they should come back with a new strategy. But for this particular one, they've been inconsistent. They have would ring Ghanaians. They came to, you see, I expected this to happen. When they came and this populist stance, I've taken away Levy, I've taken away this, we knew there was going to be a gap. They have to find a way of closing the gap. Already, they pegged $1 to 15 cedis for their proceeds. Their revenue proceeds, they pegged $1 to 15 cedis. Dollars now come to almost 10 or 11. So obviously, their revenue projection will drop. They have to find a way of filling that gap. You watch, predict me. Going forward, in the mid-year budget, they will have to come back again to find a way of even recouping more from the Ghanaian people. You have to fill that gap. How do you do that?
But filling that gap was occasioned by the appreciation of the cedi.
Yes.
Which is good in the long term.
Nobody has any problem with that. So but in the short term, they have to find a way of filling the gap.
Yeah, but that's to make us better in the long term.
Well, it's making us better. That's why they are charging you 1 cedi. If this is the better you are talking about.
No, but if
this is the better you are talking about.
If we don't want to do so, and we need money to buy fuel, so
So let's get it clear. this 1 Ghana cedi increment per liter
fuel.
is to buy fuel. They should be clear with us.
No, can I come in?
Okay,
Salom.
so let him
Yes,
clarify,
so Salom, he started by making reference to the memorandum that accompanied the amendment or the bill.
No, the first one.
Yes, the first one. Now
The
the
first
second one.
Yes.
The second one, which introduces this
The
1 Ghana cedis levy. Read the very first paragraph.
I know of it.
So it says,
I can read.
and I will quote,
Have it. Have a copy
the
here.
object of the bill
Okay.
is to amend the Energy Sector Levies Act 2025, which
Okay,
is the earlier one that he
the
referenced.
March one.
Yeah,
Yes.
the March
So
one.
this April
Act
one came to
1135, which
Yes.
is the Act 1135.
And this one,
So
the only
so
amendment
to
is the
increase,
figures, the increase.
so to increase the rate of the energy sector shortfall and debt repayment levy in order to raise additional revenue to support the payment of energy sector shortfalls, reduce energy sector legacy debts, and stabilize power supply.
I am saying that.
And I'm telling you that this is the object
I'm-
of the memo
but Adam, I'm
that
tell-
accompanied
yes,
the bill.
And this was
So-
also approved in Parliament.
Okay, so
Yes,
I'm saying
so,
that- hold on,
and this
I'm
is
saying
what was
that
approved. This
No,
is the latest.
No, this is the latest. But I'm saying
Yes,
that.
this is the
and so
latest.
I read out the latest.
No, immediately this was approved.
The minister-
went
but
on
we
the
are
bill.
working- we are making
But
the
you believe
bill.
The minister will believe the law.
Oh, what I thought.
No,
Tell me.
No,
so
wait.
you see,
Wait,
no,
do
so
you
so
believe the
it's
minister
about
will
no.
believe the
Even
law?
the inconsistency.
It is not even about.
I'm coming.
It is not about
Even
whether
the
you believe the
inconsistency.
minister.
Hold on,
I
yes.
believe
Hold
the
on.
minister.
Listen,
Hold on.
even in the inconsistency.
There is no inconsistency.
The minister, you are aware. You heard the minister.
But the minister
Okay, so I will
says-
explain why there is
Yes,
no
okay,
inconsistency.
No,
so-
the
hold on.
minister says
Is to buy fuel.
it's not. I have the. You can. I can Google it for you.
Yes, the minister says to buy fuel.
The minister said this. The process from this levy is not. It's not going to be used to pay legacy debts.
And that's what their FAQs also
Absolutely.
say. Yeah.
Which is inconsistent with the object of the amendment.
Okay.
That's the point I'm making.
All right. So let him clarify.
So Salom, I don't think that there is any
Yeah,
inconsistency here.
Okay, great.
Because the Ministry of Finance, the ministry that introduced the amendment bill, the object or the memo accompanying the bill stated the 3 key things that this increment is seeking to do. But as Minister of Energy, his biggest challenge, the biggest threat to keeping the light on and stabilizing the power sector is the fact that we need fuel in order to power the plants. And so it's about priority. So when he says that revenue raised from this levy will be used to buy fuel, it does not in any way mean that it is inconsistent with the object, because in this object it is stated that to reduce legacy debts and also to cater for the energy shortfalls that we are confronted with. So let's not try to create any problem that does not exist. But again, I am surprised that my senior brother Collins is saying that because in the budget we stated, or government stated in the budget, that we will not increase the levy, why are we coming back 3 months, 4 months later to now introduce an increment? Salom, leadership demands that when you are confronted with a challenge, you look at all the available options and you come up with what you think is best and what can work for you. That is why even it's provision for ministers of finance to come back mid-year with a mid-year budget, because it is possible that within the first 6 months of running the government in a particular year, certain things may come up that may demand an amendment to some of the things that you earlier stated in your budget. And so there is absolutely nothing wrong with a minister coming back few months later to say that the budget that we introduced, due to the exigencies of the moment, there is the need to introduce a new levy.
Very well.
Under the NPP, when they were introducing the e-levy, their justification was that it was a panacea to solving the country's economic challenges. And they told us that if we do not accept the e-levy, Ghana will go to the IMF. We have videos. The Minister of Finance and key members of the NPP government told us that because of the e-levy, we would never go to the IMF. After the e-levy was passed, didn't we go to the IMF?
Because the e-levy didn't perform.
It didn't perform.
But they
And so
blame the NDC for poisoning the environment, and and making the e-levy unpopular.
No, we did not make the e-levy unpopular. Any tax that the poorest of the poorest are the hardest hit will certainly be unpopular. And so this is not. That's what I have said. I have explained to you, Collins. I have explained to you that without this levy, without this increment, 1 Ghana cedi increment in the levy, Ghanaians were buying a liter of fuel for 16 Ghana cedis under your leadership.
General economic situation
has improved. And so as we speak, prices are coming down. As we speak, the cedi is appreciating. So as we speak, the general economic environment today is far better than what we inherited. And so even with the introduction of the levy, Ghanaians are still buying fuel cheaper than you left it. And so you have no even right to even speak about hardship, because you left us in untold hardship. Ghanaians were buying fuel for 16 Ghana cedis. Even with this levy, Ghanaians will still be buying fuel for around 12 Ghana cedis. And it's a sacrifice that we are all making to ensure that we keep our lights on and stabilize the power sector. So I think that Collins, which is that we told you the truth, and we have always been honest to the people of Ghana.
So I will bring him. Benjamin Isia is an energy analyst. I'll bring him in soon. But let's clarify this properly. Roxanne is here, who speaks for the Energy Ministry. There's been a point made by Collins that there's been inconsistency. Initially, we were told that, or at some point, we were told that this was going to help retard the debt, and now this is going to be used to purchase fuel. At some point, we had the two, as if the money to be raised was so huge that it could deal with the fuel matter and deal with the debt. Now we are knowing that the debt, or we've known that the debt is 1.2, which from your FAQs, we realized that that's 12.6 billion cedis.
$3.1 billion.
That's the debt.
Yes,
the fuel is 1.2
yes,
billion
the fuel is $1.2
dollars. And so you peg the dollar, the exchange rate at $1 per 10.5 cedis. That brings it to 12.6 billion for the 1.2 billion fuel.
Yes.
Meanwhile, this is to just raise 5.7 billion cedis, which means even for the fuel, there will be a shortfall.
Yes.
So what is it? Clarify for us, the debt payment or fuel purchases. Your FAQs I have before me saying that it is to purchase fuel. So which is which?
Good morning to you.
Before I bring in Prof and Benjamin to do the analysis proper.
Yes, good morning to you. Good morning to your viewers. And then thank you for the opportunity. Primarily, the first obligation of the one thing that has been introduced is to acquire liquid fuels for the thermal plant. If you look at primarily, take your time. Take your time.
You should watch it.
Take your time. If you look at the price build-up for electricity tariffs, there's no component for liquid fuels. And they decided to take it out. He was deputy minister at the time. The liquid fuels component in the price. You will be able to answer. That's why you are here. You're former deputy minister, so we'll get there. So you have natural gas in the price build-up, but you don't have that for liquid fuels. And if you look at our generation mix, we are doing about 70% for thermal. There are several fuel components that we use. In fact, fuels, you have LCO, you have diesel, and then you also have HFO. So depending on the circumstances and what you're relying on, you'll be required to purchase liquid fuels. This year alone is estimated that we'll buy $1.2 billion worth of liquid fuels. And over the years, the government has taken up the responsibility of providing these fuels. The government was confronted with this and had two options. It's either the government includes the cost of liquid fuels in the electricity tariff structure, or the government finds an innovative way to raise the needed funds for that. So what the government has done is that instead of passing on the cost to the consumer, which would have gone up by 68% according to PUR's simulation.
We had 53.
In fact, it's 68% according to PUR. In fact, my minister and the finance minister said over 50%. If you hear all of them say over 50%, but the actual figure is 68%. And I don't know who will be happy with 68% increment in electricity tariffs, because if you increase it to that level, eventually, if the people cannot pay, you find a lot of losses. People are going to steal power. Companies will not be able to afford. So the government considered that, okay, what are the options available? If you look at how the economy has been managed prudently, from January to date, you've moved from an exchange rate of about 17 Ghana cedis to 10.3. And then because of that, it has also affected the prices when it comes to fuel. Because now, if you look at the components for fuels, you have the crude oil price on the market, you have finished product prices on the international market, and then you have the CD. What we've witnessed in the past few months is as a result of the CD. Because if you look at the crude oil prices, largely it's been around $60 per barrel. And then depending on the benchmark you use, normally we use Platts, the prices have been fairly okay. So government said, I mean, if you look at the gains that the people of Ghana have made due to prudent management, why wouldn't we go back to the people of Ghana to say, these are the challenges that we have in the power sector. There is enormous debt. As of now, we owe IPPs by $1.75 billion. There's a $3.1 billion when it comes to generation costs. There's a deficit every month of about 2 billion Ghana cedis, which means annually you're looking at about 30 billion if we had other incidental costs. Why wouldn't we look at the prices that have come down and then speak to the people of Ghana to support government in a quest to maintain a very robust power sector? So prices have come down to 12 or 11, depending on where you're buying it from. Yes. If you add 1 CD to it, it will still be around the same 11 or 12. And also the CD is still performing very well. So that's how come this introduction has been done. So that we avoid the people of Ghana paying more for electricity, paying about 68% more. And then number 2, we also share the gains that we've made within the period with the people of Ghana. The people of Ghana appreciate the issues when it comes to the power sector. And then, so because of that, that's how come the price have gone up. But like I mentioned earlier, primarily is to procure liquid fuels and eventually to settle the debt. Because if you look at...
Eventually means what?
So let me deal with that. What the ministry is doing or government is doing is that the government is tackling all the issues head on at the same time, concurrently. So there's a work plan where you are dealing with infrastructure bottlenecks, where you are dealing with the fuel component, where you are dealing with the SOEs under the ministry and the challenges they have, where you are dealing with agri-technical losses for even, let's say, ECD is about 40%. So if you take the fuel component, for example, like I mentioned, we spend $1.2 billion on liquid fuel. If you are relying on natural gas, it's almost half the cost. So what are the options? 1, engage the ENI to see if you can get more gas from there. ENI has assured the government that from next month going, there will be increase in supply of natural gas. Number 2, Talo has also done saying that they're going to increase natural gas. We're looking about 30 mm scarf. And then also explore getting more gas from Nigeria. And even if it means that bring the private sector on.
So when you do all of that, how much of the 12.6 billion cedis
yes.
will it be?
I'll get there. So, and then also look at implementing LNG. Once you have LNG on board, definitely that means your natural gas is better. And in the long term, put together a gas processing plant too, which will reduce your costs on liquid fuel. In fact, if you have enough gas, you may even eliminate the total cost that has to do with liquid fuels. For 8 years, if they were able to at least put together a second gas processing plant, like Atwabo was done, we won't be where we are. If Atwabo was not there, if we didn't have Atwabo, I'm telling you, would have been in a total mess. Because
so the projection is what? If all these Talo, ENI, all of that.
If all of them come on stream, definitely you are not going to spend 1.2 billion. Definitely the cost.
With the 1 CD itself,
yes,
you can't get to the 1.2.
Exactly. And
we can only raise about 40% of that.
Yes.
Raise 5.7.
Yes.
That's if everything is fine.
Yes.
But the thing is 12.6 billion,
yes.
$1.2 billion.
Yes.
So if all of these come on stream, how much of the 12.6 billion are we cutting off?
Almost half.
Almost half will not even be enough.
No, almost half will be enough. And you see, like I said, that is not the only component you are looking at. You're looking at efficiency and effectiveness when it comes to the SOEs. For example,
a question of efficiency and effectiveness is great, but yes. I don't have confidence in it because every government has spoken about that. ECG will do it with block leakages, revenue, but it never happens. So yes, it's been put there to make people happy. That yes, government will ensure SOEs are efficient, but it's never the case.
So far, the data will show that from January to now, it's been the case when it comes to ECG.
Okay, so you hold it there. Benjamin, Prof is in the studio, but if you're listening to the discussion, I heard you earlier, you are not very happy with the 1 CD imposition. But given the explanation around the table, What is your position, once again, on the 1 cedi imposition per litre on fuel?
Thank you, Salom. The more the government speaks on this 1 Ghana cedi per litre addition to the Energy Sector Levy Act, the more I'm justified to still hold my position that we don't need this 1 Ghana cedis per litre addition. I think let me do 1 or 2 corrections, or maybe let me also add certain inputs on some of the conversation made so far. Normally, I hear government spokesperson mention that we need 1.2 billion for liquid fuel. I think the projection for liquid fuel is $33 million for heavy fuel oil. And recently, when the minister began alerting us that there was a shortage in the inflows of natural gas due to some pigging activities by WAPCO, and also some maintenance activities by Jubilee, we're going to need about $189 million. So I don't know where they get the $1.2 billion from. I think the $1.2 billion should be for natural gas, and natural gas has always been factored in our tariff decision papers. As we speak, if you look at the first quarter and second quarter tariff decision papers, we projected around $7.69 or so cent, almost $7.80 per British thermal unit, and that has been factored. So, and the other part is that the reason why we don't factor liquid fuel much is that we don't want it to be a reliant fuel because we know the cost of it is very, very expensive, and for that matter, as much as we can, we want our power generators or thermal plants to rely on natural gas, and that has been factored in the tariff decision paper. So this argument of 1.2 billion, I don't know where it is coming from.
But Benjamin, so yeah, the ideal thing is to have natural gas, right? But we don't appear to have enough of that, and so that's why we are falling back on the liquid fuels. So yes, the ideal situation is there, but we've not been able to meet the ideal situation. Somehow we have to pay for the liquid fuels. Is that not why the 1.2 billion conversation is coming up?
I think we need to also make this clarification. You see, the natural gas inflows have some disruptions across the year. We're made to believe that in the first quarter, we're going to have a challenge with the inflows in January, February, and March because of the pigging activities and also maintenance of Jubilee, as I indicated earlier. ENI is also going to do some activities in September and November, and that's also likely going to have some disruptions in inflows. But in all these inflows, they don't amount to the $1.2 billion people are mentioning around. So are they telling us that $1.2 billion for liquid fuel, or what they call liquid fuels, plus $1.2 billion for natural gas will cost us $2.4 billion annually for only procurement of fuels for our thermal plant? I think it is inaccurate. We need to be very...
But is it a point that the 1.2 billion rather applies to the natural gas and not liquid fuels necessarily?
That is it.
And that natural gas is being factored into the calculation already?
Yes, it's been factored there. So the 1.2 billion, I think that they should come clear on it, because we don't need 1.2 billion to procure emergency fuel, or what they call a liquid fuel. We know they are very expensive and don't want to rely on them. When we need them in smaller volumes for times that there are inflow disruptions from any of these gas suppliers. That is one. Now the other argument.
But before that, so you just mentioned that there will be some maintenance works later in the year for ENI, September, etc., and a few other disruptions that have happened. So are these projections not to cater for that, and also the inadequacy or insufficiency of the natural gas? So all of these have been factored in to arrive at the 1.2. You don't agree?
I do not agree, because I've said earlier that we need $189 million for procuring emergency fuel.
What was the source of this figure?
Gridco. They earlier said 90 million. You can go online. They earlier said 90 million. Later, they re-estimated and said 189 million that they need for procuring emergency fuel, or what they call liquid fuel. And as I indicated earlier, even if you look at the Energy Commission
for the entire year, for the
entire year, even if you look at the Energy Commission estimates for some of these products, Energy Commission doesn't actually want to estimate for emergency fuel, because they are not supposed to be a reliant fuel. So even because of ASA Energy, Energy Commission projected $33 million for heavy fuel oil, and that has been captured. And we don't go the emergency fuel because we don't want to procure most of them because of some corruption-related activities in some of these procurement that also cost us more than we are expected to pay. Because when I saw some of the estimates by Grico with respect to this 189 million I'm speaking about, I think that we should not be buying light crude oil for a metric ton of about $1,600. But those are estimates we put there. I don't also think that we should buy, light crude oil $100 per barrel. But that's the estimate we are putting there. I don't think that we should buy distillate oil, 1,600 per metric ton. But that's the estimate we put in the estimation of this $189 million for the whole year. So the 1.2, I think that they need to come again. Because if they tell us that 1.2 if it's for emergency fuel, then it means that the whole year, government of Ghana is paying 2.4 billion for fuel in our thermal plants, and that is unsustainable. It cannot help sustain the industry. That is one. Now, the other part, when it also comes to getting a windfall, and for that matter, consumers must support in paying for some of these shortfalls in the sector. Do you know that, Salom, this year, government is likely going to make about 9 billion savings from the appreciation of the cedi? Because if you look at the debt they mentioned, the $3 billion that they are mentioning, we are projected to pay about 27 billion as a sector shortfall for 2025. And this sector shortfall for 2025 was pegged on 15 Ghana cedis, 69 pesos to a dollar, because that was what was used in the tariff decision. So if the cedi has appreciated to about 10 Ghana cedis, 28 pesos, or 10 Ghana cedis, 24 pesos, it means that you don't need the $27 billion to be able to defray this year's sector shortfall. We are likely going to need about maybe 19 or 18 billion Ghana cedis, billion Ghana cedis to defray this cost. So in terms of the shortfall this year, because of the appreciation of the cedi, the shortfall has also declined in terms of cedi equivalent, because these are pegged in dollars anyway. So that we've made a lot of savings there. Now, if they also want to make a lot of savings, I think that you mentioned it earlier, the system losses are too huge. If you look at last year, 2024, system losses for Ghana was around 32%. Now, 32% and per kilowatt hour is today around 10 cents per kilowatt hour. So 32%, which translates to about 6,119 gigawatt of generated power that went waste. If you convert that into monetary terms, with the tariff decision monetary terms of our 15 Ghana cedis, 69 pesos per liter, Salom, we are talking about 9 billion that has been lost through system losses or wastage in our system. So if you want to resolve any challenge in terms of saving money, I think that the very innovative way that is very sustainable is to address the issue of system losses within the shortest possible time, because wasting 9 billion, in addition to some of these savings, we will even be able to cater for some of these shortfalls we're talking about. If they're also thinking of savings to even procure other fuels, now the Minister of Energy knows that, and Green Transition knows that UPPF, which is a Unified Petroleum Price Fund on petroleum product, is today 90 pesos per liter. Primary distribution margin is today 23 pesos per liter. These are freight costs. So if freight costs, if you forced or we've convinced GPRTU, we've convinced concerned drivers, we've convinced committed and other accessories to decrease their transport fares by 15%. Same way, the NPA can save 15% of this 90 pesos per liter, and then 15% from these 23 pesos per liter. And these are in volumes. These are huge, almost 1 billion or almost 2 billion Ghana cedis. In addition to the savings from the system losses, even to cater for these for these shortfalls we're talking about. So I think that we rush, and sometimes they make argument that prices were 17 and today they are 12, they are 11, and for that matter, we need the one Ghana cedis per liter. You see, the petroleum price buildup, or the petroleum price, or the export we have locally, is a volatile market. Sometimes it goes up, sometimes it plummets. Now, if you look at the average cost of fuel over the years, I think it's on a declining scene. The only time we had an outlier was November 2022. That's the first window of November, and it was because the city appreciated with a very magnitude impact, which has an impact on export price. So we had diesel being sold around 22 Ghana cedis, 49 pesos, and then petrol being sold around 17 Ghana cedis, 99 pesos. Just in December 2022, the prices plummeted back to around 15 Ghana cedis per liter. If the previous government had imposed 1 Ghana cedi then, this current government would have mentioned or would have sung few songs that no, why are you imposing 1 Ghana cedi, or why did you impose 1 Ghana cedi? So it's a volatile market. Prices surge, prices decline. Yes, positive for us today. Prices are declining. That is good, and it is because one, on the international market, products that we're buying on the international market as high as 723. Today we are buying around 673 because on the international market prices have declined, and that has also contributed to a stable cedi, an appreciating cedi against the dollar, and that goes to the benefit of the end user. But to take that benefit with the reflective notion that prices were 17, and because prices were 17 today we are paying 12 or we are paying almost 18, and for that matter government should bear, or government should take 1 Ghana cedi from you, doesn't also solve the issues of consumer welfare. So the more they talk on this issue about procuring fuel, if they want to settle the debt situation in the sector, they are critical contributors of this debt. One is that we have signed PPAs based on
we'll come to that. The way to settle it, that will be the next leg of the discussion. So great points you've raised there, Ben. Let me bring in Prof. Prof, interesting. So from the economic and finance point of view, what's your thinking around this levy? Did it come at a good time? Will it help? And what's your thinking around it generally?
Good morning to viewers and good morning to my colleagues in the studio. So I think, so let's start with the timing. And I think the timing is rather curious because considering that we are just over 2 months away from the budget reading and less than 2 months to the mid-year budget, to suddenly come up with a levy, which is a major policy, and also under certificates of urgency, I understand. I think it's quite curious because you would think that, don't forget that there's a major tax review of our tax policy coming in the mid-year budget, or at least expected to come in the mid-year budget. During the budget, the finance minister promised that, dealing with the COVID levy has to be part of a major reform of the VAT system. So you have such a major policy review coming up. So I think to just suddenly it seemed to have come out of the blue. It's not something that I was actually anticipating. Now, in terms of my own attitude towards the levy, I think the levy in and of itself, paying that 1 cedi per litre in and of itself, from my point of view, is not the biggest problem. I think the biggest problem is there are two aspects which have come up. Whether, now it appears that it is both to deal with the liquid fuel, to buy liquid fuel, as well as the debt. And I think that's where, my issue is. I would have preferred that it came as part of a broader long-term strategy to deal with our energy problems. Because, like has been mentioned before, it's not the first time this has come up. It's not the first time we've tried to put a levy to solve the problem. And, since the government came in, there's been various discussions about what we are going to do to block the loopholes in the whole energy chain. So for me, it would have been much easier for me to pay if the government brought a plan that said, look, this is what we are going to do to plug the loopholes, transmission losses or generation losses, whatever those losses is. Tell us that this is how you are going to solve that problem. But in the meantime, the debt that is there, we are going to use this to defray the debt. I think if I had that, it would be much easier for me to pay the debt.
But haven't they said that in different forms? So, for example, we know the price waterfall mechanism, which we're told was not being applied properly, is been properly reinstated. We heard that from Jinapo. So that is a way of perhaps helping the system run efficiently and to be paying the producer, power producers, etc., so that we don't pile it up like before. So it may not have come as part of this, but it's been said before. So can't we put all of that together to address some of your concerns?
Well, so my understanding of the price waterfall, I'm not an expert in the energy sector, is what you do with what you have generated, what you have collected.
How you spread it around.
Exactly. But what about the fact that we have repeatedly heard that some of the electricity that ECG collects, it can't account for it.
The losses.
Because that one is a problem that is recurring.
That problem, some is technical, some too is commercial, and bad governance or leadership at the ECG. So, for example, if they say they have obsolete conductors, and so in that process they lose power and all of that, and so they need investment to replace those conductors and all of that. Yeah, that is long term. We cannot fix that now before we get power, or we cannot fix that now so that we defray the cost. So those I will leave for long term. The other losses, commercial losses, etc. There's corruption, there's this, there's that, procurement, all of that. We cannot fix it immediately. But this fuel matter, if we don't attend to it immediately, we will have issues. So it does appear that they've said all of these in different forms. Maybe what you're looking for is that all should have been put together.
There's a big plan.
So that we see it, yeah. Roxanne will deal with that when it gets to his time, yeah.
So I think, here is something that has been imposed in isolation. So you can say, if for instance, the communication has been, look, it's not just that we woke up one morning and we felt that, fuel prices have come down, so let us impose a tax. But, so the framing matters and how it's presented matters. So I think that, that aspect of the communication has to happen. The other thing that, I have in mind is the general equilibrium impact of the currency appreciation. And I think the fact that this has to be done so quickly and, where it's coming from. And if you put that in the broader context of, again, the budget, the CD appreciation, the positive side has been heavily highlighted. I think the negative implication, probably not so much. I think we've heard part of that about, there's some savings or some reduction in the debt. But if you look at government's projected revenue for 2025, I think...
It's put at 15.6. The dollar CD was put at 15.6. So now there's a shortfall.
So that brings an issue, and that has to be addressed. I'm sure that when we come to the media budget, it will be explained. But one of the immediate things that the appreciation will do is to reduce taxes from international trade. Because if you know anybody who is clearing goods at the port, they will tell you it's immediate. It's not something that we have to wait for the long term to see. So 2025, the government projected to collect just over 26 billion in international trade taxes. If you look at what the currency appreciation has done, now that's going to knock off at least 30%.
Yeah.
And then you have to find a way to deal with that, because you see, we have a target. We have a fiscal target for the year. So in some sense, maybe there could be a way.
But how about in the media budget, did they review those fiscal targets? How about if they review those fiscal targets, will it have any impact?
So yes, so it is, you review it. But the government is also forward-looking. I think the people who run the finances, they won't just sit there because you can't just come in a post-election year like this. There's usually only a shorter lag between the actual budget and then the mid-year review. Instead of, so from November to July, now it is March to July. So I think perhaps, the JRA and the custom, they'll be looking at the revenue dashboard and they might immediately see something. And then obviously government need to find ways to plug the hole. I think that the main point I want to repeat is that we as Ghanaians, we know the problems in the energy sector, and we are better off accepting a 1 cedi levy, 1 cedi per litre levy, if it is indeed going to fix the problem, than wait for the whole thing to come crashing on us. Everybody knows that if we don't deal with the energy sector problems, we are not going anywhere fast. We can have all the other big plans. All these things about industrialization, 24-hour economy, anything else that we are talking about, we have to address the energy sector. My only issue is the timing and how it has been presented. I think the confusion about whether it is fuel only or it is fuel and that doesn't help. I think.
No, go ahead.
So
the politicians. Go ahead.
So,
No.
yeah. So I think even even a casual observer would have heard that at least different people have emphasized different things. So there's a document that has mentioned both. The one that was read that has mentioned both. I think that's communication.
Collins was going on a certain tangent.
But that was it.
Yeah.
That's communication for the minister because he wants to keep his lights on.
Yes. So that's communication for government people to do.
Yeah.
But I think that from where I sit, I would have wished that this just didn't show up on a Wednesday or Thursday morning, and that it came within whatever discussion has happened. There's been discussions about whether we are going to bring private parties.
It was midnight.
It didn't come midnight. It didn't come midnight. It didn't come midnight. But unfortunately, didn't make a presentation midnight.
And you didn't stay there to 5 hours. You left. You left.
We couldn't. We've said they abandoned our case, but they are already prepared.
You wasn't in the 5 hours. You left.
See, you saw the argument. We did our best. Midnight.
All right.
So just to find out, I think it would have been helpful if it was not only a discussion about a levy, and that the broader discussion was that we were having this in the context of all the other things you pointed out. We are thinking about private sector participation in the ECG. We are doing this so that it doesn't come across that you just want to, because things are looking better, you just want to take some levy. But it is seen as part of a broader long-term coherent strategy.
Yeah, so the levy, like you said, it's important we pay the debt and purchase the fuel. I mean, I'm trying to play the middle ground now. And so it's something we have to do anyway. Is the timing rather not better? Because now it does appear we are making some savings. So 15 or 16, now to 12. I've given you 4. Give me 1 in return. And even that one, we are not sure how it's going to affect the export price mid-month. During the second pricing window. If things get better, maybe that will be absorbed by the exchange gains. So is this not rather a better time to bring that in so that the people don't feel the pinch? Yeah.
So I think it may well happen that, I'm not sure whether they've started collecting. It may well happen that because of the momentum,
GRA is yet to.
So I think it should take effect from the next window, or
no, but GRA is not.
So if it happens, it means what we are paying now to go up.
No, it won't go up, and I'll deal with that.
Okay. So I think it may well happen that at the next pricing window, it doesn't go up. The fuel price doesn't go up. But I think that where the government hasn't helped itself is that at a point where the city has appreciated and many people are happy, that we are seeing the effect on prices. But don't forget that the full impact on pricing of goods and services haven't been felt. Some traders and some, some other people who are pricing are a little bit skeptical, thinking that perhaps the stability of this or the appreciation of the cedi might reverse, and they are adopting a wait-and-see attitude. So when they hear something like this, then people say, well, we were right after all. We were right to adopt a wait-and-see attitude. So the full effect of the price reduction that perhaps should be seen, people might start let's take a hold. We are not sure what government will do next. And I think that is where the government hasn't helped itself. But if you are thinking about in the last 5 years or so, if we are thinking about any better time to impose such a levy, perhaps a period where we've seen substantial reduction would have been a good period.
Great.
But we have to look at the other angle also.
So let me take a few messages that have come through. This one from Sir Joe Baba in Bogatanga says, in fact, I never support tax that the imposers would not contribute a dime to. No government had ever inherited assets without liability. The previous government equally inherited a debt of $2.5 billion in the energy sector, but was able to keep the light on for 8 years. This one from
It's 1.9 there.
Elikem, East Amrania Pharmacy says, if the minority is not ready to bear with government for this levy to partly solve the energy crisis, then the government should start exposing those who are behind this huge debt to the Ghanaian. That's how it came from the East Amrahia Pharmacy. There's a very long one from Apia Adomako. It says, so in this country, whenever consumers are about to enjoy lower fuel prices, our leaders often respond by introducing new taxes. Back in 2014, when global fuel prices dropped, the then finance minister swiftly went to parliament and imposed a 17.5% special petroleum tax. Now in 2025, we are being asked to pay an additional 1 cedi to support the purchase of fuel. In my view, the real issue lies in the poor management of our energy sector. The sector is riddled with technical and commercial losses. Corrupt practices are not prosecuted. As the distinguished Professor Boppin aptly put it, a spoiled child doesn't need more money, but discipline. Okay, so ECG remains inefficient, and the government itself is not paying its fair share for the electricity it consumes. If we do not solve the management of our energy sector well, we will be invited again in the future to pay additional levies. This is Apia Adomako, the Executive Director, the West African Regional Director for CATS International. He's been at this for quite a bit. All right, Adam, so a lot has been said. Yes. What assurances do we have that this will be managed well, that persons, one of the messages said he doesn't trust taxes which the imposers do not pay anything. No. How sure are we that this will be managed well? How sure are we that, this will not continue in perpetuity? Already, you've not seen any sunset clause there. What assurances can you give the people that this will be managed well? This will go really to deal with the problem and all of that, and maybe a bit later when things improve, this tax will be scrapped off.
So, Salom, first let me deal with the issue of the perception that the imposers are not paying anything. That certainly cannot be true.
That's not true.
Because all of us buy fuel. As members of parliament, we do not even, as members of parliament, we are not entitled to fuel coupons. No, I'll come to the executive, but even with the executive,
that's by choice.
No, I can't speak to the other minister.
Yeah, but let's even assume. But let's even assume. Okay, let's assume if you are given, say, 500 cedis worth of fuel coupons, and you present that at the station to buy fuel, it means that the quantity that you would have gotten, it certainly will reduce.
But
so
the point they are making
it's essentially,
if you expend it, you go for more. So there's no
it doesn't work that way. What happens is that depending on even your level, there is an amount that you are allocated to within a month. MPs don't receive. Even at ministries, some ministers don't. Yeah. Spokesperson, and I know for a fact that the energy minister also does not use fuel coupons. Yeah. But I'm saying that so I'm saying, but the point is that you are saying that that's by choice. But I'm saying that even assuming
also didn't take salary, even though they were entitled.
So even assuming without admitting that those who are using fuel, they also pay. Yeah. They equally pay. They have, and if you are giving fuel coupons, your family, your wife doesn't use fuel coupons. It is you for your official duties. Okay, so that perception that they do not pay, it doesn't come in here. Again, government is undergoing a lot of austerity measures. I am a member of the ECG board, and I can tell you for a fact. I can tell you for a fact that there are many things, and this is a conversation for another day. Many privileges that even the previous board enjoyed, but we were told that we came at a time that the institution is challenged and that we may not be benefiting from some of those privileges. So we are all making the sacrifices in order to see the sector stabilize. But back to the issue of accountability, government has shown enormous faith that we are willing to account for the process of this levy. President Mahama has said that strictly we will be publishing at regular intervals. That's the law. And that's what the law says. But in the past, that wasn't the case. So today, government is promising, and I trust President Mahama when he promises, because I have seen him deliver every single thing that he promised. So we will publish at regular intervals revenue or how the account looks like. Again, we want to ring fence the revenue so that it will go strictly into the payment of, or the expenses will be for the reason why we are collecting it. In the past, we have seen how the previous government mismanaged ESLA funds. ESLA funds were used to pay pension funds and other things. Very unnecessary. That is, in its case, reckless expenditure. But we are committed to ensuring that revenue from this levy will be dedicated solely for solving the challenge, ensuring that we have a stable energy sector. And now with RTI and other avenues available, Ghanaians are free to ask regular questions about how this money is spent. And I can say that, look, recently I was having a conversation with a couple of friends. And then this conversation of some people trying to rate ministers and their performance came up. And I said, at this time, it is too early to even rate performance of ministers. But in rating the performance of ministers, don't only look at how well they are doing, but also look at the depth from which they are coming out from, they are rising from. And I can tell you that the Honorable John Jinapor inherited a very, very challenged sector. But the gentleman is not sleeping. He's working very hard. And sometimes, even at 1 a.m., 2 a.m., you are receiving information from him. He's well updated about places that even we have challenges within the energy sector, electricity, distribution, and what have you. Salom, we inherited a challenge. But our task as leaders is not to keep complaining and complaining. We are here to fix it, and we will fix it.
Great.
And we are fixing it. And one of the ways that we want Ghanaians to support us fix it is by making this sacrifice of contributing 1 Ghana cedis per litre for all of us to have this challenge resolved. But for our friends in the NPP, I am surprised that they all of a sudden want to get to town and start talking about hardship. Salom, we don't have short memories. We are aware. And we all lived and experienced the 8 years of untold hardship. As we speak today, all the economic indicators, we are performing better. Inflation is coming down. The cedi is appreciating, and their own former vice president and flag bearer said, if the fundamentals are weak, the exchange rate will expose you. So today, because the fundamentals are so strong, solid and robust, that is why the exchange rate is favoring us. You have prices of goods and services coming down drastically. Even transport fares are coming down. Recently, I saw a release from Tipper Truck Drivers Association. Even they are cutting down the cost of selling sand or transporting your sand and all of that. So it tells you that generally the economic condition, the health of the economy is in a better place today than it was 5 months ago. And we are only pleading with Ghanaians to understand that nation building requires some tough measures sometimes. But even with this levy,
in Ghana, we've been taking these tough measures for a long time.
But this time I can tell you that yes, we have a few people who were not happy with the introduction of the levy. But I've also seen, even on social media, a number of people who have said that looking at the way the government is performing and how transparent President Mahama and the energy minister has been with the power situation, they are even willing to pay more. And we have seen some of those comments. And so I want to plead with the people of Ghana that, yes, it is not nobody gets excited just to wake up and introduce a levy to impose burden on them. But we plead with them to accept this levy, support us to stabilize the energy sector. And even with the levy, we are saying again on authority that fuel is still cheaper than it was under the NPP.
Very well. Prof raised a point that it's curious the timing of this, because we just came, it did appear that it came from nowhere. And the other point he made is that in 2 months or 3 months, we will see the media budget review. Why couldn't we wait till the media budget review? Is there a reason? Is it that we anticipate that the exchange rate dynamics will change so we have to cash in now and put it there so that later we don't see it. What's the rationale? Because it just came all of a sudden, and instead of calling Senko to stay and fight for us, they also left.
You explain why. Oh, yes. Let me deal with some inconsistencies or the information provided by Benjamin. The first point is that he suggests that UPPF should be used as a source of fund for the power sector. You can't do that. The UPPF has a specific purpose. It's dedicated to the petroleum sector. You can't move that because it's available and then use it for the power sector. That cannot be. There's a regime. Yes, there's a regime there. You can't. So that's suggestion. Number two, he disputes the figure on the natural gas and makes reference to GridCo. I think maybe he didn't pay attention to the documents properly. One, if you look at what GridCo presented, which was given to the Parliamentary Select Committee recently, they looked at mid-year to December. What he is referring to, those figures, are even half of the year. They're not the full year. That's because I heard him mention that LCO, you need 116 million. That's even half of the year. Number two, if you do the full year projections from the beginning of the year till date, the government has spent more money way above what is captured here. And that is because you have a lot of these plants. We've had challenges with the supply of natural gas. Once you have a challenge, definitely you have to fall on liquid fuels. So that's how come we've spent more. So if his source is GridCo, it's either he quotes them well or he gets an update from GridCo on this. On Prof's point about the work plan, that on bringing as a whole. So there's a work plan that the ministry is working with. If you heard me the first time I spoke, I said that the issues are being tackled simultaneously. It is not that one is being tackled and the others have been left. No. Every bottleneck that has been experienced. That is why the sunset clause was not included in the act, because if things go well, within 12 months, within 16 months, within 18 months, depending on what the reviews are, we may end up going back to even abolish this one city that has been introduced. So it is not as if it's been left. No, maybe subsequently as a ministry, we have to share the work plan for people to know what the ministry is doing. I mentioned earlier that for the fuel component, the plan is to have more gas, more natural gas. That will deal with the cost. On ECG, the number of reforms, every now and then when the energy sector is up and you introduce ECG, because of the challenges and the anger there, you find that it's derailing because people tend to focus on ECG a lot. But a lot of reforms are being done. For example, ECG's procurement policies have changed. The system where ECG procures goods is left at the port. ECG has to now look for money to go and clear. It's a thing of the past. Now, the policy is that once ECG engages any supplier for goods, the goods must be delivered to the doorstep of ECG before payments will be made. And that is a structural reform to ensure that the challenges are being dealt with. If you also look at the aggregate technical and commercial losses, and eventually when ECG publishes its books for the year, you note that has reduced. We see the numbers every day.
What happened for it to reduce?
No, because of efficiency. Efficiency, basically that's what is being introduced to ensure that you have a more efficient system. If you take the commercials, the technical for example, there are areas that have challenges with transformers. For example, if you take maybe Oyarifa or Chado, originally the number of people who live there today are not the ones that were supposed to live there. So the capacity alone on the transformer is huge, and that will lead to an overload. Once there's an overload, you'll be recording technical losses. So the minister has approved that ECG should inject over 200 transformers. Look at some of these areas that you have these challenges to ensure that the transformers are replaced, those that are malfunctioned are replaced, those that can be moved or you need a bigger transformer, you move. And that's alone, that is being done. That alone has an impact on it. If you look at the challenges that we've had when it comes to peak demand, the ministry is focusing on renewable energy. Only last week Friday was Lala around Karachi to launch the mini grid solar, and also there's a policy to increase rooftops for homes and offices. All those ones will go into what our energy mix is and the effect of the liquid fuels that we purchase. So as I mentioned, that there's a work plan dealing with all the challenges. When you take GridCo, and minister will attest to it, that during the briefing, there are transmission lines that are going to be upgraded. For example, as of now, when you take the Volta region, we have a 33 kV line, which is weak. You're going to make sure that it increases to 161 or 330. That will also bring some efficiency in the system. So it's not as if you are looking at one side, but as at today, what is immediate that needs to be resolved has to do with the liquid fuels. Because if you are spending huge amount of money, 1.2 billion estimate on the liquid fuel, and you don't have it now, Ghanaians are going to sleep in darkness and must be dealt with. And so if you ask about why it was done under the certificate of urgency, that is the challenge we find ourselves now. Over the period, the finance ministry has been the one financing this, and it's having a fiscal impact on the budget. And the ministry has said that this cannot continue. And as a government or as a ministry, we appreciate the dynamics. So that is why the ministry looked at the moving parts, the exchange rates, the reduction in fuel prices, and decided that this is the best time.
We have this quarterly review of tariffs.
Yes.
I mean, June ends another quarter.
Yes.
So are we going to see another quarter adjustment?
You know, it's very unfortunate, but the previous administration tied the hands of government.
But that's serious. How?
No. You signed an IMF program and said that. Yes. No. You said no. It's in the IMF document that tariffs must be looked at. In fact, they even proceed that subsidies in the energy sector must be removed as well. So if you look at the staff level agreement, all these things are contained in there.
So by end of June, we should be seeing another tariff increment.
All things being equal. I mean, PURC. PURC. They look at the factors. Like I said, they included it in the IMF document that it should be done.
You know that what you are saying is not the truth.
No, that is the case. The document is there. You can refer to it. Yeah, so at the end of the day, they will look at the factors and then a decision will be made. At a point in time, like I mentioned, PURC said if you look at the data, do 68%, but that's not the option the government went with. The government decided to go with the option of rather sharing in the gains that have been made by Ghanaians. If at the end of the day, if you're purchasing fuel, for example, yesterday I saw somebody's post says he used to buy for 1,200 for a 70 liter vehicle. As at now, he purchases the same for 890 Ghana cedis. That's a reduction of about 400 cedis. So his position is that if government says that I should make a sacrifice of 1 cedi, which will take my cost from 890 to 940, which will still be almost 25% less than what he was purchasing in January, why not? You will look at it. In fact, during the stakeholder engagement, there were persons or there were groups that agreed that 1 cedi is fine. There were groups that said, looking at the mess you are dealing with, 1 cedi is too small. And there were groups that also said that.
So there was stakeholder engagement?
Yes.
So what happened to GPRTU?
No, you see, Salom, I don't want to mention specific groups. But the engagement.
Wait, GPRTU is such a key group.
Yes.
They like, it's where the rubber meets the road.
No, you see.
So you see what they are saying?
Yes, I've heard them. And I, in fact, 2 days ago, yesterday when they make that statement, I tried to reach out to them on behalf of my minister's authority, that the engagements are still ongoing. And like I mentioned, stakeholder engagements happened. It is not that it didn't happen. I don't want to go
from
into...
the explanation you're giving,
yes.
If they had known that,
yes.
They wouldn't say they are declaring a strike.
Oh.
Because strike over what? Because there's an increase.
You see, Selo, like I mentioned, that there are groups that do not agree. Paying taxes is a difficult decision. When you ask people to pay taxes or levy, a lot of the times you find a pushback. But that is why the stakeholder engagements are still ongoing. It didn't spring up. Engagements have been. I don't want to mention names.
Yeah, but
if I put out the names,
you could do all of that. But
yes.
I'm saying that GPRTU is such
yes.
a key group.
Yes.
For all the high level things you're doing, it is at their level that the populace will feel it.
Tell them there's no way this policy, this amendments would have been done without engaging drivers. There's no way. That's why I said I don't want to go into the dynamics of these things.
So drivers were
of course.
But GPRTU has an umbrella body.
No, that's why I said I don't want to. What you are doing is to push me to put out the specific names of the groups that engage. And I've said that.
But we all know GPRTU. No, they are like the umbrella body. I know they are.
That's why. See, in the last 3 days, I can tell you on authority that my minister has had engagement from morning to evening when it comes. No, that's what I'm saying. That even for the last 3 days.
But
those
even,
post-engagement.
yes, but I mean, even
no, post-engagement is very important.
It's very important.
People still have
in policy formulation, Salom, in policy formulation, in policy formulation.
To put GPRTU on post.
No, not post. I didn't say that.
Salom, in policy formulation, anywhere in the world.
There are two against one. No, I'll make the point. Let me finish.
Just land it.
Let me
land. And then I'll come to you.
Okay, let me land. And
now that you're on ECG board, yeah, I'll come to you.
And on ECGs, I dealt with the technical issue. On the commercial issue, if you look at what the cabinet has approved, that there will be PSP, private sector participation, in the billing and collection of ECG's revenue. Because over the period, that's one of the challenges that we've identified when it comes to ECG. There are people that they will tell you that they even go to chase ECG, that they want to pay their bills. I've seen people that say, for 6 months, nobody has read my meter. So what's the way? If I don't want to be there and one day they will come to me and say, I owe 100,000.
Speaking about that,
yes.
Why are some people still on postpaid? Of course, I saw government's release about some people to be exempted, finance ministry, pay directly. No, that's fine.
Yes.
But why are some people still on postpaid?
In fact, it has to do with the meters. As of now, there are meters that are in. And
postpaid.
No, prepaid. Prepaid.
But a lot of people are on postpaid. So I thought there was a policy to phase out that thing.
That is
forever.
That is so. It has to do with the meters. At the end of the day, it will come down to the availability of the meters, whether or not you can change somebody's meter from postpaid to prepaid. And that will be done very soon. You see that, I think about 800,000 meters in now. And that is the interesting part. All the ECG 2000 here containers, there are no meters and there are no transformers.
I don't want to get into
I don't want to go into matters. That shows you the procurement. No, that's why I said that. I was only making the point that the procurement policy of ECG.
Actually, anyone wants to deal with everything.
I'll come to that. That's why I said that goes to the heart of the procurement policy of ECG and what this government is doing as part of the broader roadmap to address some of the challenges that we face as a country.
Very well. So Collins, I mean, you have a demonstration. Is it happening?
First of all,
is a demonstration happening on Tuesday?
There are demonstrations after MS.
No, but there will be demonstrations.
No, how will they demonstrate on this matter? They don't have the moral rights.
First of all, there was no stakeholder engagement.
It's not true.
Please.
It's not true.
Please. I am a member of parliament. I'm a deputy ranking member of the Energy Committee. I only saw the memorandum
in parliament
to the amendment when we were asked to meet to join the finance committee for an emergency meeting. Nobody engaged anybody. So stop this. There was an engagement. GPRTU, which is the mother body that controls all drivers, was not aware. What kind of engagement are you talking about? So nobody should come here and say that there was engagement. There was no engagement. Indeed, on the day of this bill, the initial order paper did not have this particular item on it. It was later that they brought an order paper addendum that was sneaked in.
Maybe
even in parliament.
The engagement could have been with some other groups.
Which other groups?
I don't know.
Which other groups?
Maybe, for example, the IPPs.
Which other group? Oh, please, of course. What are you talking about? IPPs want their money paid.
Exactly.
So IPPs will tell them, if you engage IPPs, that I'm going to collect money. I'm going to collect money, come and pay you.
If they were engaged,
what kind of
that's some engagement.
No, my brother.
No, but you said
I'm coming. There was no engagement. Key people like members of parliament.
So you can make the yes.
Nobody was engaged. Indeed, I'm saying I saw it on the order paper addendum at 4 p.m. when we were told to go and set a meet to consider first of all whether it was urgent as a committee. Of course, they have the numbers, so they pull through. Adam is saying that they are coming to correct the mess. Do you think if the NDC had told Ghanaians that one of the ways they intend or the processes they intend to use to correct the mess is to charge more taxes, we would have voted for them?
But
was that the strategy?
That go without saying?
No. Even in their budget, the main budget, they did not indicate anywhere that they are going to charge extra levy on petroleum. They did not. So this issue about my brother, when you're speaking, I'm here. So this whole issue about there was engagement and that we are coming to correct the mess. You did not tell us that one of the processes to correct the mess is to charge us more taxes. In fact, you indicated that in your case, you are going to reduce the taxes. That's what you said. And Ato came to parliament, reduce some taxes, and hey, Ato is the best. That's what you did. So don't come here and say that we are here to correct the mess. You are not correcting any mess. Listen, let me tell you. Prof put it beautifully. They are having challenges with revenue. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. There's a 30% shortfall that they have to find a way of fixing that gap. That is the problem. Now, this issue about whether it's going to be used for gas, fuel, or to pay legacy debt. Listen, let's clarify it. The total revenue expected from this levy is 5.7 billion. We are being told that you need about 12 billion cedis to take care of just fuel for the year. Listen, anybody who tells you that this is going to be taking care of is going to take care of legacy debt should forget it. It's a complete lie. This money is purposely to buy fuel, simplicity. And everybody should be clear about that.
No, but what was the difference really?
There's a difference.
No, I mean,
there's a difference.
Yeah, we need a light on.
No.
We need a light on.
When I started my conversation, I talked about politicians being truthful. You can't come with a memorandum, and say that I'm coming to collect